Hey everyone, this is it. This is the biggest so far of the LEGO Monkie Kid series sets. It's the Monkie Kid Team Secret Headquarters. Comes with almost 2,000 pieces, a bunch of figures. There's a ton of stuff to look at here, so what I'm going to try to do is give you a quick overview of all the important stuff, then I can come back, slow down, and spend some more time with it. What that means right now is taking all this little stuff, all the figures, all the side builds, and putting those aside and focusing on the main ship. And if that wasn't clear, yes, this is intended to be a ship or a big boat if you must. Strictly speaking, a self-propelled or self-powered container barge, the type of watercraft that you would see today in real life, in the real world, servicing places like the Bay of Hong Kong or major rivers that have a lot of industrial traffic, where you need boats that have shallow draft so they don't extend too far down into the water, but they can still carry a bunch of heavy stuff. And oftentimes these will be used to take containers from big ships, from ocean-going ships, inland or into shallower harbors and such. And that's what this is supposed to be. It doesn't quite look like a ship, though, because it doesn't have a traditional superstructure and bridge where the people go. This small platform is actually the bridge. It's an exposed outdoor bridge that just has a spot for a person to look at a console, and those are like a couple of buttons or knobs that the person can use there. And the reason that they did it this way was to make it easy to accommodate a very large captain, a very large pilot, which would be a big fig in this case. They also have a communications tower back here with an antenna and a satellite transceiver. Around the other side, they have a basic crane, which doesn't have any winch on it or anything, but it is able to rotate around. You're able to extend the boom ever so slightly to change its reach. It has a hook down here at the end of a chain, and the whole thing can move up and down. So that's the primary action for it. So it's still able to get in fairly close and fairly far away, and it's able to rotate most of the way around, impeded only by the bridge itself. There's a fair amount of deck space, and you'll see some things that can be opened up, like this hatch at the back of this container can be opened up, but then there's nothing really inside of there. We'll see the inside of this completely. Don't worry about that. There's another hatch here where you can just drop somebody down, but it's not good access for the figures. It's more kind of the thought that counts sort of thing. You have stairs on either side to get down. That's supposed to be the exhaust right there, so the engine exhaust would come out there, and I guess it's above water, so there's just a little bit of seaweed that's sticking out the back of it. You got a couple of tires that are used for bumpers on the sides, and just random small details. Look like this is a refrigerated car right here. There are a bunch of stickers in this set, to be sure. A lot of them are not key, they're not absolutely critical, but I feel like they add to the level of detail. You've got some people who are clearly, sticking around this place quite a bit because they're growing some vegetables and some flowers and stuff. Got the monkey graffiti on the side of the container. Of course, containers have to have graffiti on them, so that is absolutely appropriate. A little PA speaker there for emergencies and call-outs. Again, more evidence of life inside. Solar panels here probably won't be providing a lot of power, but at least 5 to 12 volts. And this is a really nice sign. It's a huge sticker, so do be careful when attaching it to that 8x16 tile. But again, it looks pretty good. It adds definitely to the immersiveness, looking at this thing in total. Got some nice details on the back of this container here to represent the locks and such. And over here, well, that cloud is actually supposed to represent a cloud, like a cloud of steam. So this is where some steam is coming out. Got some signs on the side there. More detailing. Looks like another refrigerated car right here. And that one has a different style of door. Speaking of doors, there's a pet door right there. So that's for cats to get in. We'll see what that's all about. But that just allows an animal to go straight through. And this is part of a winch system here. And just coming down to the base. So this is really the hull. So you see a little bit of the extension of it. There's a combination of brick and plate and tile-wise construction and Technic panel construction. So as you come around the side here, that's all brick-based stuff, but then it switches over to Technic-based stuff, and it does a decent job of making a smooth transition there. And as you come around the back, more Technic panels to cover up large areas. And that's most of the ship as viewed from the outside, but there is a lot of detail on the inside as well. And what's coolest is how you get to the inside. So observe this very simple transformation of the entire thing. it just opens. The whole ship just opens up, and all of these are detailed spaces. Let's start at the red container, which is at the starboard or right side bow of the ship, and then we'll work our way aft or towards the rear and then come around to the other side. So this is a garage or workshop space, and they have some huge computer screens up on the wall, as well as some tools off to the left and more off to the right. It looks like this is a mech bay, and I'll show you exactly how that ends up working with one of the side builds later. So this next space has additional tools, and then there's another storage spot over here. Again, a side build goes with that. This center section is a little bit awkward to get into. They make it easier to get access to that by removing the deck above it. And what's important here is that the big fig can jump down into this space and use it as some of his console area. I don't know if it's for his exercise or if he's just looking into things. You see, taking the whole thing out so we can sneak a peek around the other side. It's got some consoles down there, and then there's a screen with a display. There's another screen across from that. He's actually playing Tetris on that. That's just full on Tetris right there, not even trying to hide it. So that's cool and all, but I don't know if this is supposed to be a little command center or if it's a piece of exercise equipment, because it looks like a gym station to me. Like this would be a treadmill or something. It doesn't look exactly like a treadmill, you know, but it just looks so much like exercise equipment. I could just imagine this buff dude doing some exercises down here in the hull of his headquarters. All right, continuing our tour, we're now looking at the left or port side aft compartment of the ship. So there's another storage space right there for another side build that I will get to. More tools stored over here. And then we get to the restroom, which is for males, females, and cats with mohawks. Only cats with mohawks. If a cat does not have a mohawk, it cannot enter here. Now, access to this is rather restricted by default, but there is quite a bit of detail. I mean, it's a fairly fully detailed interior inside of there, but we can't get to it without removing some other stuff. So we'll come back to that. And then this is like leisure space, and there's just not enough light getting into this. So what I'm going to do is remove this upper deck, another half of a container. Now we can really see in there properly. So this is a hammock here for the big fig to relax on. This is a house for the cat, and that comes off. So you can have the cat sitting just at the entrance to it, or inside, or just outside of it, just a small build. It almost looks like a sand castle or something. And taking that off gives us easier access to at least seeing inside the bathroom. So down there at the base is a toilet. There's a sink. There's a plunger off to the side, as well as a little wrench for doing some repairs. And I don't know if that's supposed to be a shower space there and it's just plugged up, or if it's supposed to be a litter box. I'm gonna say it's supposed to be a litter box and cross my fingers. And then in the space beneath the hammock, this is like the rec room or the living room space. So this is a nice widescreen TV. Somebody's playing a game on it. And that's the game console machine right there on a little side table, I'm assuming. And the all-important coffee mug, although maybe it's used for tea in this case. And a nice little chair that only works for minifigs, not big figs. And finally, at the very tip of the bow on the deck, it looks like you've got a set of windlasses here, but there are no ropes or chains or anything to wind up like for an anchor. Instead, this is part of another hidden feature that's below deck, and it's this. It's a 6-stud shooter, so that can pop up whether you have the whole thing open or not. You can just access it from here. And there's a basic geared mechanism in here with just a couple bevel gears. So you rotate this to shoot this, and it can fire fairly forward, or it can go after aerial targets as well. And there's a small little space down beneath there where you can put somebody to be controlling that thing. What I've done here now is place the aforementioned side builds into their intended locations inside the boat. So the mech bay holds a mini mech for the Monkie Kid with access to the operator's compartment from the top. Here's a water scooter for Pigsy. And on this side goes a horse-inspired watercraft for the character May. Now all three of those things do fit inside with the ship closed up, and you get easy access to them from the outside by opening other panels. So this opens up, so May's little watercraft can now come out. That can be closed back. I can get to Pigsy's little thing over here through another compartment. Very easy to access. And finally, the mech. Well, that one's a little bit more difficult, but with this section that you can take off from the top, you can get in there. I found that you need to kind of arrange the hands just right. You kind of need to fold the arms, but it is possible to deploy this through the top, and you just store its large weapon outside. Each of these things will hold a minifigure and can be used as a full-fledged standalone model. The Monkie Kid mech uses mostly Mixel style ball joints, so you can easily get this into an action pose and it'll just hold like that. You know, it's not too heavy, so there are a lot of things you can do with it. I can pretty quickly get it just up, stand on one foot. There we go. See, it's not a big deal, so that's good. It does not have working knees, unfortunately, for the folks who love knees, but I feel like you don't really lose that much not having knees. I mean, this can pose well enough. Look at that. It's on a tiptoe on one side because these joints just work so well. So, you know, fundamentally, you can make it do what you want it to do. The most restrictive thing here is just that it does use just single axis hinges for the elbows, but that's just realistic articulation for humanoid style elbows. I don't like how this is attached here. The staff, it does rotate around quite a bit, which can be seen, I guess, as a positive, as a fun thing. I personally just find it to be a little bit annoying. You know, I want to be able to hold it in one place, and it's just a little bit difficult to get it there. You have to really push the fingers in. It has 2 fingers on either side. So looking at that a little bit more closely, this also has 2 stud shooters on this side, independently fireable. It's interesting how the operator gets held in here, the Monkie Kid himself, the figure. He doesn't have any studs whatsoever, and not even panel pieces to wedge the legs in there. It's just the front, just holds him on. That's just it. So he's just kind of sitting in there. But you know what? It works just fine. I'm not wanting for more. So around the back, you can see how it got attached to the interior. So it's not just floating around. It's just a simple attachment there. They have clips on the other side, so it's not too tight, the connection. Little antennas that show up here. And, you know, this thing is just fine. I think it absolutely does its job. I do wish that this worked a little bit better, unless you like it, in which case, hey, it's great. Pigsy's little boat is, wow, it's just so tiny. It's got the little pig snout on there. It's got the pig ears up top, and it even has the pig eyes. Those are the little printed 1x1 pieces, also used for the shooter on his food truck build. You can angle the snout up and down however you want that to look. And these are actually his minifig weapons. So he's got like a hot dog material shooter. It feeds in from the back, and he also has his rake, which looks like a pitchfork in Lego form, and he just sits on the back. Thank goodness for those mid-sized legs. So though he is short, he is able to sit down normally. He can sit down forward, or you can move him back a stud as well. And then these are just exhausts. If you want those exhausts to be angled out, maybe the thing looks a little bit cooler like that. It's entirely up to you. This is super simple, but it works. May's horse head, water scooter, water jet, water ski, jet ski type thing here looks a lot like it comes out of Nexo Knights. And I say that with absolute reverence, because that was one of my favorite things from Nexo Knights, how they did the horse-based mounts. Just the design of that, to me, looks great. And the whole horse thing is inspired by the character that this comes from in the actual Journey to the West series. So this also has 2 stud shooters, so 1 on either side. And in this case, the operator does not sit down, they stand, and she's just holding on to the handlebars there. So potentially she could look like she's really being just boosted by this thing and just be hanging on for dear life with its power, which is actually kind of cool. You could just imagine the horse spirit inside of this. I mean, it's supposed to be a mechanical thing, but you know, you could imagine it kind of coming to life and really taking off and being super fast. And that's just a fun look, I think. And again, this thing is so small, but it's cool, and it does everything you need. You know, it's a small boat, holds a person, and can shoot, and you can, you know, drive it around and stuff. The Demon Bull clones get their own small watercraft side build as well. It's like a fast attack craft for the water that's heavily inspired by like fan-powered swamp boats and such. But here it looks like it's jet or possibly rocket-powered. Has almost a catamaran style of design, at least up front. Might get to a flat hull at the back, but you know, the operator sits up here, so the driver of the thing sits up here. You have stud shooters, so those would be remotely operated, 1 on either side. And there's also what looks like a flamethrower up at the front, and that's operated by the dedicated gunner seat. Here's this set's version of the Monkie Kid. He does come with his golden staff in its normal size, and there are plenty of places around the ship to hold on to that as well. The facial expression is stern and serious, looks pretty good. The print on the face is a little bit lacking in opacity this time, even though it's just black on yellow. It's a little bit more obvious than usual here that it should have been darker, so I'm not 100% happy with that. I want to see consistency. That's all. I just want to see consistency. Lego is expensive, so they should be giving us good quality products. Similarly, you can see a little bit of lack of darkness in the black on the back of that torso. Kind of varies a bit. Again, just consistency is what I would like. And then there's the alternate face with the face paint, and he's looking pretty happy and silly. There's Pigsy up close. You already saw his weapons, but this lets you see the print on those medium-sized legs nicely, as well as the torso there, his very serious expression. And a look at the print around the back of the torso, which again is just a little bit lacking. The pink there, actually, in this case, should have been backed by white, and that white that it is, I believe, actually backed by is just not opaque enough. So just, again, they need to do a little better with the prints, more consistently. Here's May in her full dragon armor or dragon suit, which looks pretty awesome. What print is there? It looks pretty awesome. I do wish that some of that print could have continued around the sides, though, because it does start to look a bit plain, in my opinion. The whole figure does when you turn it around the side. And then around the back, you can see how that print did continue. So yeah, definitely there's something missing here. But Lego obviously does not print on the sides of torsos, so this is just consistent there. They could have put something on the legs and or the arms that would have helped, but it wouldn't have been quite enough. I like the sword there, a reused piece with the trans bright green color. It's a little bit frosted, and also the dragon style hilt is very nice. Underneath there, well, that's a very just plain, pleasant face. And the print on that one is not too bad. There's an alternate face. Again, the print is not bad. And you can use this figure without the helmet on. Thank goodness they did include a hairpiece for her, and her hairpiece is new for this year, for this series. It is painted with the green tips on just the edges. So that's what they did there. Not dual molded. I think it's perfectly fine. Look forward to being able to, in the future, get more versions of that hairpiece with different colors, or perhaps just in an individual single color without the highlights. Here are two of the Demon Bull clones. There's also a third one with the exact same designs, but he's a little bit special. I will show you momentarily, but I did want to show you again what these look like up close. So I think the prints on these are nice. I like the headgear pieces. A little metallic printing on there. One of them comes with a hammer. You can see that light does get caught by the heads inside, but those head pieces do not have any printing whatsoever. They're just trans neon reddish orange or orangish red. This is General Ironclad, so he gets some different colors compared to the regular Demon Bull clones. Like, he has the different colored horns, he has that extra armor piece, he has a different weapon, and he also has a small cape. Otherwise, the print for the torso is exactly the same, and though he is special, he does seem to still be just a clone who has simply risen through the ranks. He doesn't have a special head underneath. This is the one I was actually talking about being special. So it's just a regular clone, Demon Bull clone, but with this huge flight pack on the back, which is just all thrusters. That's just crazy. You can actually change the angles of all of these things independently, so you can make it look like he's more being thrusted just straight, or you can kind of angle them if you're going for some action poses and stuff. And he's got that weapon there. Otherwise, the figure itself is just normal. And the three main clones, normal ones in this set, are named, even though you can't tell them apart visually. These are Roar, Grunt, and Snort. This big fig character is named Sandy, and most of the details of the figure itself are molded plastic, and it all comes mostly as just one piece. So from the top of the mohawk down to the feet, that's all just one thing when you get it. So the only details that are actually printed here are his eyes and eyebrows, and then the lines going down the sides of the trousers there. So that little magenta down in the feet at the shoes, that's actual plastic. It's the same plastic that's used for the necklace here, and then the orange for all the hair, that's plastic and non-removable. So that's actually pretty nicely done. Could have used some more printing, I suppose, just for a more normal level of detail. But no, this is actually a pretty good big fig. And then he also has a nicely built up weapon here. Sandy also has this cat here, which is just a recolor of the one that was used in the Lego Movie 2. But it looks pretty cool. Obviously, it's trying to look like Sandy, or Sandy is making this look like him. And it's of the type of cat that is allowed into the restroom in the ship, because it does have that mohawk on. So this is a funny little inclusion. And they also give you a fish to feed to it, and that's in the light royal blue color. Here are the many small extra pieces that come with this set, and amongst these are a bunch of spare studs to use as ammo for the several stud shooters. And lastly, there's a look at the spent sticker sheet to give you an idea of just how many were involved. Although I will say that I personally, while going through this build, did not feel like this was excessive. It's just a really big build, and there are a handful of things spread about that get details that benefit from having the stickers, I think.
And now, we talk about price. Oh, the all-important metric of price. Because here's the thing, this is going to get contentious. This costs $170 US, and the prices are not any better anywhere else. That's a lot of money for a toy, for a Lego set, especially something that's not intended to be like a high-end elite collector's model or something. Now, there are probably some rich kids out there who'll be like, what, 170 bucks? That's nothing. I spent $170 on a roll of toilet paper the other day. So what? Who cares? But I think for most people, $170 is a lot to spend on a toy. In my opinion, it's actually worth it. Just barely, but it's actually worth it here with this set. Let me tell you why. First of all, a lot of people still like to use price to part as just a metric that you can consistently look at. You can adjust it for inflation. You can look at the history. There's good data for it. It's not the end-all be-all for value. Like if something is made up of all 1x1 stud pieces, and it has 1,000 pieces, well, it's going to be, like a little cube. Like it's not going to have that much value compared to something like this that has a bunch of large pieces. It has a lot of large plates. It has these corrugated steel style 1x5x6 panels, some plain 1x5x6 panels, more Technic large panel pieces here. It's got a big fig in it. It's got the crane piece. There are a bunch of large pieces here that add a lot to the value. So it's not just something that is cramming a lot of tiny pieces into a small space and then charging you for that. You're actually getting a lot here. And it is detailed on the inside. And more importantly to me, it's actually useful space and useful detail. You can interact with these things. You can climb with your figures all around here. There are plenty of handholds and things. You can get all inside. You can use all that space effectively. And the way that it's arranged, it kind of asks for you to use the floor space or the table space that is between the halves of the ship as more interior space. It just makes sense to see that as a natural extension. It has good access to everything. Like I really like this feature, how this opens up. Hopefully I'm not knocking anything over, but yeah, how that opens up and you can get to things on the inside. The one for the mech to access that from the top doesn't work as well, but it does work. But then again, it's not that easy, or not that difficult rather, to just open this up real quick and grab something from inside and close it back up. The design of this for play is stunning, is fantastic. The little shooter that comes out in the front, it just makes sense. So much of this makes sense and works well for play. On top of that, the side builds are good, and they don't need to be any larger than they are. They don't need to be any more complex than they are. When I first looked at this, I'm like, wow, those side builds are so tiny and just kind of forgettable. But you know what? I've complained a lot about Lego like increasing the size and complexity of everything, even the most basic things, to the point where we have now $20 cars that hold a figure, or maybe two figures at the most, and they're huge. They're like this big. When kids to play with a car, like 4 studs wide works perfectly fine. Okay, you go to 6 and then you should have a lot more detail involved in it. But this goes back with the little watercraft here. This goes back to like older days of simpler times when we had smaller, simpler things and we enjoyed them. They were fine, they were fun. Yet these do have some of the modern details afforded by modern pieces and modern techniques that are available to Lego, so all good there. The figures are pretty good. There's a fair number of them. You get the big fig, you get the full team there, so I'm pretty happy with that. Glad they included a hair piece as well as a helmet piece for May. I hope that they will always do that with helmeted characters where they should have an option to show their face with the helmet removed. There's only one main thing, honestly, one main thing that I still do not like about this set, and I really don't like it at all personally. It's the thing that makes this look like not a ship. That makes it look like a barge. If you're familiar with barges, not that many people in the world are actually familiar with barges. People live near coasts or major river throughways are maybe used to them. But I'd say probably the majority of people in the world aren't that familiar with barges and wouldn't look at this and say, oh, that's a ship immediately. It's confusing because, okay, you have a stack of containers here, but where's the bridge? Where's the bridge? Where is it? Well, this is it. And I get it. Let me turn it around for you. I get it. I understand why they did that. Because in order to have a bridge that would accommodate a minifigure or Sandy, the big fig, it would have had to be huge. Well, I wish they had something like that. Even just some sort of suggestion of a covering and window opening, just something. Even if it was pretty skeletal, I wish that sort of a wheelhouse existed here. Because this is fine for play and all. And I get it. I understand, they use the part budget for a wheelhouse to create other stuff that's good here. But I wish that they had shifted something in this direction, because that would make it look really good. And it would make it make more sense, a lot more sense to a lot more people who would then understand what they're looking at. As it is, that is the weak point of all of this. And it's mostly aesthetic, because the function is just fine. Although, I mean, it wouldn't have hurt to have a little stair or just like a ladder going up to that, because as it is right now, you have to climb up to it. I get it. It's Sandy. He can just reach and just hop up there. He's athletic. He's strong. It works in universe. I'm just saying things that I would have preferred to see. Optimistically, very, very optimistically, I think it would have been nice if these containers, especially the top one, but if not all of them, could have been removed, complete as they are. But that would have killed the design for the whole thing. Honestly, just being reasonable, that would have killed the design. They would not have been able to do so much as they did with the interior, with being able to open this up, easily get access to things, have things mounted to the walls. It wouldn't have worked. That would have been a great add-on, a great little additional thing, but it's not reasonable for me to have asked for that. Somebody's going to ask, will it float? No, this will not float. Of course this will not float. It's not a unitary hull. Look at that. This thing will sink in a second. It'll sink faster than a rock, probably. The little miniature craft also will not float. Nothing here will float, and Lego does not try to make it seem like any of these things will float. It says right on the box, craft will not float, or something like that. Models will not float, I think is the exact terminology. I like this sign. Why do I like this sign so much? I like it when models have signage involved with them, because it just adds to ambiance, adds to the realism, the feeling of, there being stuff beyond just the vehicles that the figures are usually stuck playing around with. So even this crane, I typically don't like it when Lego does cranes and there's almost nothing you can actually do with them, because there's something like this where it's just a chain or a string with a stud at the end of it. And then, you've got a couple of studs of movement available here to extend like that, and then down, and that's it. Like that's really weak when they do things like that, or when they just have the basic, like a really short boom, and then it just goes up and down and that's it, and the hook is right here. But this is actually useful because it has such a range. It can actually extend out beyond the boat, and it can bring things inboard. It would be nice if it had the ability to raise and lower at the same time, but I mean, you do have a little bit of that here. but it's so much better than Lego's normal basic cranes. And without having an actual winch system and pulleys and all to make it proper, this is a fine compromise. These little access panels, they don't really do anything. They just let you peek inside. They really don't do anything. So maybe they could have skipped those and just had those be static and covered. I appreciate being able to see the detail, but they don't add that much to it. But I am really nitpicking at that point. Overall, I feel like this is a good set. This is a good quintessential play set, a complete play set. Something that opens up and come up with all of your scenarios for everything from just laying back on the couch, you know, waiting for a mission to come in, playing video games, to, you know, actually battling, having, you know, deploying all the troops, deploying all the, you know, the side builds and things. You can have a raid come in from outside, from the air, and also from the water surface at the same time. They didn't waste too much on those, but there's still enough to actually have a battle, you know, to have both sides active with only the things from a single set. And yeah, I'm very happy about this. As soon as I saw the pictures of how it opened up, I was very impressed. But I'm probably even a little bit more impressed now, having held this in my hands, having built it, and having seen how everything works. This is good. This is just about as good as it gets today for Lego, and it's just about. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go all the way. I'm gonna say, honestly, this is just about as good as it gets with Lego official products for a playset throughout their entire history. Because you can do stuff with it everywhere. All of it is useful. You can put figures everywhere, inside and out, and it's detailed. It just needs a superstructure, even a small one, just a covered wheelhouse, and it'll be pretty darn perfect. That's how much confidence I have in this thing. That's how much I like it. That's how much I think that it is good to have on the market and will bring a lot of joy to a lot of kids out there, a lot of teens, and even a lot of adults. That's all I have to say about it for now. I might say more later because there's just so much to talk about here. But I did a pure build for this, the real-time build. That should be up. I did a speed build. That is also up, so you can check that out. The build for me, what was it, like 4 hours, I think, but I was fully focused on it. So just, you know, expect it to be 4 to 5 hours, I think, just reasonably to put it together. And there was never a dull moment, almost no repetition, like absolutely minimal repetition. Nothing was particularly frustrating to put together, I'll say. I had a couple spots where I was like, oh, oops, I pushed things together a little bit too quickly, but ultimately it works as a build. So check out one of those builds if you're still curious about this. You're not ready or willing to spend $170 on it, but you want to see more about how it went together. And I will continue to pump out more content and show you more sets, new and old, and talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.